Hello, everyone. I am Carolyn Choate. This is Petals, and I am joined today by Adi Soozin, who has some very impressive and interesting credentials. So I am pretty impressed with myself that I got her on my show. Would you like to tell everyone some of the accomplishments that you've had in the world of books and social media
Oh, yeah, of course.
and everything else that you've done? It's good too.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adi Soozin. I am a fifth generation real estate investor. I broke, I worked with Apple, Porsche, Target, Whole Foods, and Disney. For Apple, I broke one of their records, doubling sales in a year without increasing the marketing budget. The playbook I used was replicated across Western Europe. Then I went to IE Business School, where they turn whatever your skill is into a superpower. After that, I grew a fashion company by 4,200% in 9 weeks. When people were like, "Oh, you'll never be able to help that fashion company." And then I helped another company grow to 108 million in sales in less than 5 years, and that was in a market that had not seen a new entrant in decades, and there was a 90% chance of failure. So yeah, my undergrad
I
degree
have
is
to interrupt you there and say, how did you learn to do these things?
okay. So my undergrad degree is medicinal and biological chemistry, which means when I look at marketing, I look at it from the neurobiological perspective of
Hmm.
how does the human brain work? Not, oh, I need to get people to click this 27 times to remember it. There's, okay, we have dopamine, serotonin that can both be released with specific marketing material. And if the brain releases dopamine or serotonin, it creates a long term memory like that. So if you notice throughout your life, you have all these memories that are ultra specific. They're ultra specific because your brain released a neurochemical, which made that memory stick. So with marketing, if you make it emotional or exciting, then people remember it.
Hmm.
And if you approach marketing that way, it's a game changer. That's why, where's my book? That's why
This
with my
must
book,
be why I can still like sing jingles of commercials from the 90s and like quote different taglines.
yes. Yeah, yeah.
Why?
So when you're a child and you're watching those commercials on TV, you're feeling safe. You're with your parents. You're usually having like a movie night or something. So you're releasing serotonin, like the bonding chemical. And then you see this jingle, and then 20 years later, like the Folgers coffee cup song comes on, and your brain releases serotonin. Like, do you love Folgers coffee? No, but you loved your childhood with your parents. So yeah, it's wild. But that's what, like, a lot of the book, I focus on teaching young marketers, hey, learn neurobiology from chapter one because it will change your marketing career.
Did you know when you chose that major that you were going to go in this direction with it?
God, no.
I think most of us don't go with the direction, but like, how did that transition happen?
Okay, so I grew up in a family office. Do you know what a family office is?
No, I can't say that I do.
It's basically when your family decides to own and create lots of businesses.
Okay.
So my childhood was literally I would bring my homework into my father's office. He was a commercial architect.
Mm.
So he was working with like these huge brands in New Jersey, in New York City, Connecticut, like all around the East Coast and as far west as Wisconsin. And he would let me sit in on board meetings starting at the age of 8. I didn't realize how much of that I soaked up from attending board meetings, and my after school chores were working in this architectural firm whose clients were Mercedes, Land Rover, Range Rover, Jack Daniels, Marriott, Hilton. So like the big name brands were his clients. And then we he would start a business with a strategic partner who was going to operate the business, and my father was just the public persona. This was like before influencer marketing, where like the person who shook hands and had all the strategic partnerships and shook hands and kissed babies and did the photo ops was usually the CEO, and
Hmm.
they would pull all the business people in, and there wasn't like a business development role. And
Okay.
so my father would be the CEO. The person who was like there was their trade craft would be the COO, and then they would launch a company. So I'd walk in like high school, and I'd see there's a new company on all the conference room walls. And I was like, oh, okay, a new company's going to be launched. And then I would get to sit there for the meetings, get to pick up on a few things. And I didn't realize how much of that I soaked in until when I was in college, the 2008 recession hit.
Mm.
And my grandfather was like, listen, I had enough money set aside for you to go to college, med school, put a down payment on a house. But all of it was in shares in one of the banks that crashed. So yeah, he was like, you have to figure out how to get through your last few years of college. So I took a job with this guerrilla marketing company. Um, and her first client was Porsche. So I came in, she was doing this guerrilla marketing campaign, like a huge event at their Porsche dealership. It had all the Palm Beach elite coming to it. And I came in the day of the event, and it was a mess behind the scenes. And
Mm.
I was just the intern. And I was like, do you mind? And she's like, do whatever you want to make this run smoothly. So I walked around and I started telling people, I was like, you should be doing this. You should be doing this. You should be doing this. Don't do this. You need a schedule and everyone needs to adhere to her schedule. And I started like just orchestrating everyone. And she looked at me and she was like, what did you do before this? And I was like, well, I have a degree in biochemistry. And she was like, no, before that. So
What did you do as a child? 'Cause
yeah, it's like I grew up in my family's office, so like where we had a lot of businesses, we had like a lot of political events, and we had to
I
go to
love the confidence that that gave you to just be sure that you knew what to do.
yeah, and it wasn't even like like you know how sometimes confidence is like it's built on a false persona, but then other times confidence is built on a you're watching people do everything wrong and you're like, "Oh my God, the ship is sinking. Stop, you guys. Can you just do this, please, so that we don't like blow this up?" So then after that event, she was like, "Okay, yeah, you're not an intern. You're my right hand." So then that's how I earned my way to work with her. And we also did a strategic thing with Aquafina,
Oh, wow.
um, Mars Candy Company. There was something with Coca-Cola. Like there were a lot of brands. I only put a few on there, but um, yeah. Then she had me with her like at every event. I was with her like pre-event, getting everything, getting the schedule set up, and it was amazing. We got to work with so many amazing companies, and I didn't realize that was a huge achievement until like years later. Like I
Yeah.
so Apple hired me, and I didn't realize that what I had done for like Porsche, Target, Whole Foods, and Disney was a big deal
Hmm.
because I grew up with my parents were like these industry titans who like were literally building cities. And so I thought that what I was doing is just like rudimentary kindergarten work.
Small potatoes.
Because compared to my parents, it was small potatoes. And then like, I don't know, 5, 10 years later, I found out that what I had done as my first job in college was a huge deal.
Yeah, I that is a huge deal. Wow.
But
And to be working at Apple, and also not only to be working there to get a job there, but also to be able to break records and do innovative things that grew their business. That's really amazing.
yeah, yeah. My boss was like, I was like, "Do you care what I do?" Because I think there are a few things that are not optimized here. Like people aren't incentivized properly, and this isn't incentivizing people to drive more sales. And this is like we should have the promotions going off 72 hours before they get paid their paydays. And he was like, "Yeah, do whatever you want." And then when I doubled sales, he called me from Germany and he's like, look, I knew when I hired you, like you had a great resume, but what did you do in Italy? And so then I got to the point where I was negotiating and fixing the supply chain for 3 military bases in Northern Italy. And I was like, well, I mean, that base doesn't need that because people are wanting to buy this right now, and this base does. So I just drove between the two and swapped their inventory. So, like, it's still the same inventory. And he was like, no, 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 that's brilliant. I'll give you more. And I was like, yes. So, yeah, yeah.
Are there any real actionable takeaways that my audience could get as solopreneurs from what you're talking about with Apple? You're doing a lot of like managing multiple people, multiple teams. What kind of things can we take away from that when we're doing our own business?
Yes. So there's a really good framework by the CIA, and it's called MICE. It's money, ideology, compromise, and ego. So there's 4 things that motivate people.
Mm.
You have to figure out what motivates them, and then you give that to them to make it a win-win solution. So you hear a lot of people talk about structuring win-win deals, and they think, oh, that person just wants money. But
Mm.
that's not always true. So when I was in Italy working with Apple, I was also an international model. I'm third generation international model. Yeah, on my mom's side. So I was modeling while like, and it was boring. That's why I was with Apple as well for the intellectual stimulation. And one of the people on the sales force, he didn't want a performance bonus. He was trying to become a DJ.
Mm.
So I said, hey, if you sell the most Apple products this week, what would you want? I can give you anything. What would you want? And he said he wanted me to bring all of the models that I was friends with in Italy to the next time he was playing at a club. I was like, done. As soon as you're the number. And so I did that with each person. I asked, there was another one. I said, what would you want, if anything? And he said, in Europe, we don't have brown sugar. And in the US, you do.
Whoa.
So your pastries taste different. So he wanted, if he got number one sales, he wanted this dessert I used to make, which is so unhealthy. It's chocolate brownies with the ingredient brown sugar. You do a layer of chocolate brownie, you do a layer of pretzels and caramel, then another layer of chocolate brownie, and you do like this triple layer thing. Yeah. And he was like, if I get number one sales, I want that. Like, so they didn't want money. They wanted gifts. They wanted quality time. They wanted other things. With the software company, with my software company, we grew it to, we have more than 3,000 different people have used the software in 59 countries. I got a strategic partner, and then I got other strategic partners. I made it a win for everyone. With the book, we got to be number 2 bestseller in 20 days. But I included all of my mentors and like some very powerful friends as contributors. It's like, listen, just write 2 to 3 pages in a 400-page book. I'll work with you to make it a bestseller, and then you can say you're a best-selling author. And they said, done. And then they shared it. Of what was surprising to me is a lot of people said that they would promote the book afterwards. And the ones who didn't say they were going to promote it afterwards were the ones who did the most promotions for it.
Oh,
And the
wow.
ones who said they were going to promote didn't promote it at all. And so,
Never tell.
yeah, you do. It's a numbers game. Like you don't want to, a lot of young entrepreneurs, they'll say, oh, I got 3 strategic partners. I'm like, no, you don't need 3, you need 20,
Mm.
because half of them are going to have something come up in their life, like a family member gets sick, um their dog dies, like something is going to happen. And then you're going to have one half of the strategic partners that can actually come through, and 20% of them are going to get distracted with something else, and you have a small percentage that's actually going to come through. So
Yeah. This is reminding me of like a funnel structure, actually.
yes, life is a funnel. Life is a
Everything
funnel.
is funnels. Everywhere I look, I see
It
funnels.
is. It is. It's a conversion thing. Like, we had, even with the book, everyone had to sign this contract that they were authorized to share the story they shared in the book. And several people had to pull out because apparently they were not authorized by their company to share their story in the book.
Wow.
Yeah, like an executive from one of the top tech companies shared how he moved their entire system onto the cloud and how it increased retention. He wasn't authorized to share that story, so we had to pull it out.
Oh, what a
My
shame.
husband was like, "Are you worried?" And I was like, "No, I expected a few people would have to pull out." And so we buffered for it. We have 20 people in there.
Yeah. This is reminding me of a conversation I had the other day with a 10-year-old friend. We were talking about that artwork of the banana duct taped to a canvas and somebody paying outrageous amounts of money for that. And she said, why would anyone pay money for that? And I said, well, clearly they have money. They're not motivated by money. So you have to think about
They're
what are they
motivated.
getting from it? What do they want from it? So yeah,
Did they donate it to a museum after?
they ate it. So I was like, probably they wanted attention and,
No,
to
that would be a
call them out
depreciation
to
of
be
assets,
crazy.
so it's a tax write-off.
Oh my gosh. Did not think of that one.
The asset depreciated as soon as they ate the banana. So Yeah.
It's a whole other world. Boy, yeah. I mean, I'm a one-woman show, so I'm like, I do not know about all of these things that go on with the bigger companies and people with lots of money, but that is fascinating.
Yeah, there's once you get into finance, it's crazy the difference between what is taught in mainstream media as good best financial practice
Mm.
and what is actually practiced by the ultra wealthy.
Yeah, we're starting to get a sense of that as the not ultra wealthy. We're starting to see like, oh my gosh, they find all the loopholes and do all. But anyway, that's not the subject of this podcast.
There's Well, yeah, so like one of my cousins, he bought this house and my mother kept giving me a hard time. She's like, his house is bigger than yours, it's better than yours, this, that, and the other thing. And I was like, my house is 20% of our real estate portfolio. I don't need to live in a house that's 100%. That if, God forbid, we lost an income, we would have to sell our house.
Mm,
And but then there's all this marketing material around trying to inflate people's egos so they think that their house needs to be all of their wealth, needs to be in
mm,
their house. But if something happens, you lose your house. So it is also like wealth preservation is also about ignoring all of the marketing material out there that's designed to make you think you need a bigger house, a bit better car, this, that, and the other thing. You'll notice most of the ultra wealthy live in an average neighborhood and their house is a small percentage
mm.
because their money is out there working for them.
And that goes back to the ego motivation that you were talking about. But it's like that ego motivation has been artificially created by the marketers. And it's an interesting world to be involved in marketing because I always saw it as like, oh, it's evil, it's manipulative, it's tricking people into getting things. And it can be that, but it can also be making sure people who actually do want and need something know that it exists and how to get it. And that's where I certainly like to be as a marketer.
The reason I accepted when you asked if I wanted to come on your podcast is because your reputation is that you're an ethical marketer.
Oh, excellent. That is what I'm going for because I
Yeah,
honesty is like my number one value, you know?
I think, yeah, and a lot of not enough marketers care about that. And that is something that's super important to me. I think when you take marketing and you use it to help people find the solutions they need in order to make their lives better,
Mhm.
marketing is one of the most noble things you can do.
Totally agree. And maybe it's because I didn't come at it as a marketer. I was a creative writing major, and so I was always like in the arts, and obviously a lot of people in the arts see marketing as the big evil. And it was very transformative when I self-published my book because all the trad publishers were like, we don't know how to market this. This is kind of niche and weird. And back then we didn't really have the internet so much, so it was like there aren't niche communities you could get into.
Yeah.
So it was on me to market my book, and I discovered that I loved it. And it
Yeah.
was such an interesting game of like, how can I find the people who really want this book and tell them about it? And so from there, I was just like, yay, marketing. But I
Yeah.
didn't, go to school for it or anything. So I have a different perspective on it, I think.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Like I remember the first 5 years that I was working in marketing, people were like, "What do you do?" And I was like, "Well, I help companies make more money just by optimizing these things."
That's a nice way
And
to
they
put
were
it.
like, "That's marketing." And I was like, "No, I don't think it's marketing. People hate marketers."
It's kind of like how people hate lawyers, but good lawyers are really, really, really needed and important and help people.
Yeah, yeah. I have a friend. I'm sorry. Let me get the dog. Nikita Boilepo.
Yeah,
Um,
you hear that doggy, huh?
oh yeah, my dog only speaks Hebrew.
It's
So I had what was it? I've had some lawyer friends who are like absolutely amazing, but then I've also worked with some lawyers who literally they just want to convolute things and make a huge mess and pit both sides against each other to keep fighting and fighting and fighting
mm,
because they just keep charging and charging and charging. So yeah, I'd say lawyers like marketers, like bankers, like salespeople.
like
There's always
everybody.
good
Mm,
people and there's not so good people. And the quicker you put into your life mechanisms to find the good people, the more peaceful your life becomes.
mm, very
Like for
true.
example, your podcast. I was telling you, okay, I can make shorts. I will make sure at the end of the short, it's driving traffic back to your podcast. It's a win-win for both of us. But how many podcast guests come on and do that?
None. Very few.
Yeah, yeah. So it is so easy for you as a podcast host to quickly find the winners, the givers, because when two givers get together, you cannot help but be successful. You can't help. You literally cannot help but become ultra wealthy because both of you are putting money and resources and time and valuable connections into each other's books. And when you find people like that, there's very few. So it's very easy to have a small circle. When you find people like that, you rise so fast.
I've been much more careful about who I invite on this podcast now. The first season, I was just anybody that I could get in front of,
But
and
that's how you get your start. That's how
I
you get
took I took a long break and I decided to come back to it just because I had questions that I wanted answers for, and I thought, I bet my audience also has these questions. I'm going to find the best person to answer that question. And so I
yeah.
was like, I'm only having people on that I know are top of their game, have really powerful things to say, and are really going to help me and my audience. So, yeah.
Yeah. I do the same with my podcast. I have investors on and then I have investment opportunities on in real estate. And I ask questions that are interesting to me
Yeah.
because I used to ask what I thought they wanted to be asked and I hated my podcast. I hated it. And so then I switched it and I was like, I want to know more about these types of investment opportunities. And this is what I want to know about them. And I switched it to that. And then my audience, like one of my godfathers, he's the past president of a bank of an entire region. Another one of my godfathers is he's a world-renowned architect who's made these buildings in Milan, Dubai, Beijing, Colombia, like, and they're like these titans, like they're literally, their names will go down in history and they'll listen to my podcast. They're like, I loved that episode, but this question was boring. Or like, and it was like,
Yeah,
I
I
agree.
was
I thought
gonna
that question was
say,
good
when you
too.
ask the questions that they want to be asked, it's dull and it's dull for the audience, and then they go, podcasts are so boring. When you
Yeah.
ask the really interesting questions and push them, then it's not dull anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's have them. Where are your, ask
Yeah, so let's get back to the the thing that really jumped out at me was the increasing social media engagement. I think that's some place where a lot of people are struggling, and your numbers on that also sounded like, wow, how did you do that? So I want to hear the
your,
story of the social media engagement.
So this one was a really fun psychological experiment
Ooh,
because the organization told me that they knew what their people wanted. They knew what their people liked to be known as. And so their marketing material, so the organization's target market was very prestigious executives who donate their weekends. So they want to be known as extremely prestigious executives. All of the organization's marketing material was photos of people in their 70s and 80s handing out brown paper bag lunches.
okay.
And I was like, yes, that's what they're going to do with their Saturday morning to feel good about themselves is feeding the homeless, but they don't want that photo on their social media. The photo they want on their social media is the prestigious executive saying something philanthropic
Mm. So you're
about.
thinking about things that they're going to want to share, they're going to want to broadcast to their audience, so you're bringing
Yes.
them in as sort of a partner with it.
Yes. So I made it. I said, what did they want to be known for? And what do they want to share on their social media? Because like when someone holds an Apple computer, I don't know about you, but when I was in college and someone held an Apple computer and walked around on campus, you knew they were a graphic design major, they were an artist. I was a biochemistry major. I didn't get an Apple computer because those were for the artists, the creative geniuses. And I wasn't a creative genius. I was studying biochemistry. Yeah.
Little
And then
did you know that you were a creative genius, but yes.
but yeah, much later, I got christened as a creative genius, and then my father also got me a Mac, and I was like so excited to have a Mac. And then all of my art friends who were like into art and music and like the cool crowd that I was not a part of because I was a biochemist. The cool crowd adopted me in with them. And I remember like sitting in a biochemistry class and this guy who was like a biochemistry major, to this day, I have no idea why he was a biochemistry major because he's like a total artist, works for Adobe now. He
Mhm.
sent me 2,000 songs to add to my new Mac. And I looked at him and we're like literally learning about like biochemical like processes. And he's sending me 2,000 songs and he's like, you need this. And I was like, what? He's like, you got a Mac. Now you need cool music. And so I
Yeah,
was like in the yeah, I was a cool person now because I had a Mac.
a cool
So
kid.
but yeah, but like so you have to realize that brands are like cults
Mm.
and you're in this cool group, not like a cult like a negative like they're going to suck your blood thing, like a cult like you're in a specific group when you identify with a specific brand.
So again, to take it to we're solopreneurs, we're doing our own thing. Do you have a natural instinct for understanding what motivates, like if I'm trying to reach my target audience and get them interested in sharing things, how do I know what motivates them?
You have to change, you have to morph yourself into what they want to be.
Okay, so like
My
an
hair is not
aspirational.
curly. My lips are not naturally red. I don't usually wear this much makeup. Like, but when I do a PR opportunity, I put on the costume of what they want to be tied to. So you have to think of it this way. Everyone wants to believe in someone. They want to believe in something. They want to believe in the good in the world. I will have a hater or a bully do something behind closed doors that completely destroys me. Do I let my followers know that I was completely destroyed? I did on a few occasions and they were scared because they need to see me as strong. They need to see me as a leader who knows how to get them from point A to point B.
Do you think
I
that
have, yeah,
depends on your brand, whether you're being the aspirational leader who doesn't get ruffled versus the sort of authenticity kind of thing that people are pushing of like be vulnerable and honest and show your weak side because it's human?
there is a fine line and there's a very specific balance between that. So what I found with a lot of the leaders that I surround myself with and that are my mentors that have taught me the way that they struck the balance is they say, look, after you come out stronger on the other side, after someone tried to destroy you, then you can talk about how it nearly broke you
Mm,
and how you came out stronger.
but not in the
Because
middle of it.
people, yeah, Americans love the survivor hero story. But when you are in the middle of the mess and you're not sure if you're going to make it through, you don't tell anyone because they want to follow a leader. They don't want to follow someone who's on a downward spiral.
Mm,
Like when my grandmother died, I went off grid. Went off grid. I was free falling. She was the one who, when I would go out to like to accept an international speaking engagement or do some, I was about to pursue a really big goal that terrified me. I would come to her house and she would say, listen, you're going to go do this. And if you fail, you're going to come home afterwards and we are going to have a slice of banana bread pie, banana bread,
mm.
and we're going to talk about it. And if you succeed, you're going to come home afterwards. We're going to have a slice of banana bread. So, regardless, you have a consistency that you are coming home to. Like that for me gave me the confidence to go out and do things. But if you're going to break, you don't tell people that you broke until you've healed
Mm.
because there are very few people who want to help you heal.
That makes a lot of sense.
I had an international smear campaign done against me in the fall.
Oh my
I
God.
stopped going out, stopped talking to anyone. I did not attend any events. I wasn't sure if I was going to publish my book. One of my friends from the military intelligence community called me and he said, you're going to come with me to one event per week. And I'm going to make sure that you feel safe the entire time. And you're going to stay out at that event for at least an hour and then you can go home. Because he knew that I would get PTSD and I would become a recluse and never go out again after that event. And he said, it's going to break you, or you're going to go out with me where you feel safe. And when you come back from this, you will be so much stronger because it's our villains who try to break us who make us stronger. Because think about it, when someone punches you, you want to come back so much stronger that they're afraid to even look at you, let alone take another punch.
Mm,
So you do want to be authentic with people. You do want to be authentic with your followers, but they need you to be that grandmother or that older sister or that coach that says, hey, look at me. You are going to achieve great things if you follow this path. Do not stray from it. They need that. They need you to be the coach. They need to be Harry Potter who's figuring out their life. And
mm,
they need to know that you're Dumbledore. You're taking punches, but you're still going to be there for them, right?
yes. So in the hero journey, it's your target customer who is
The
the
hero.
hero, and you are that wise mentor, your Obi-Wan Kenobi, and who's the other one I'm thinking of? It just
Everyone knows that Obi-Wan Kenobi went through hell to get to where they were as a leader.
hmm
But they're not going to watch him go through hell. They're only going to see him as strong, right? Yeah. So people build trust with you, and it is key to be authentic and vulnerable and let people know about the hell you've been through after you've come out the other side stronger.
I think that really answers the kind of question I've had when I see people who kind of melt down on social media, or they consider marketing their book to be like, please, please, somebody buy my book. This is not selling and I'm so sad. And I like it works for a period of time because people are like, oh, I feel bad. But then it's just like, you can't keep doing that. It's not a long-term strategy. And to me, it just is incredibly off-putting. And I think it's kind of in that same vein of wait until like you're in a better emotional place before you're trying to figure out how to market your book.
Yeah.
Never
Yeah.
do that.
You have to think about it this way. When you're leading a tribe or a community, it is the most selfless thing that you will do. Like you do not get on stage in your most comfortable clothing. You get on stage wearing what they want to be wearing in their mind because they want you to set this bar for them to work to, because we as humans release happy chemicals in our brain when we're working towards goals. So my friends will see me in my Adidas sweatpants on the airplane, on the train, traveling. They know that like most of the time I come out of the gym, I go to the ice bath, then I put on a hoodie and sweatpants. But you have to step into this leadership persona, lead people, and then you go back to your home to recharge, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you were to be hired by, let's say, me as an example, and you
Mhm.
were going to look at my social media, and I'm an author of a couple of books, and I try to like teach people things and help them with things, what would you do first step to like transform the and I don't mean this to be like selfish and I'm getting free advice from you. That's what it's coming across as.
No,
But
it's your
just as
podcast.
an
You're
example
asking.
for my audience who are similar to me, like what number one first step to like make that social media start really shining instead of just being like, and I put up this, I put up this.
Step one, I want you to go out and get like 15, 20 magazines from the garbage bin at your local library.
Okay.
You're going to take, you can go pay $6 per magazine at CVS, or you can get the same magazines a couple months old at the library for free. I'm Jewish. I like things free. Like if I would rather take the like 90 to $200 and spend it on marketing than spend it at CVS. They have money. So go to your library, get the free magazines, and then I want you to flip through and find pictures of what you think your target market wants to see, that sees themselves as, what they aspire to be.
Mhm.
You make a vision board. You
Okay.
become that. You step into that persona every time you get on your show.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look at the background. So we have all these family awards, right? We have all these awards from everything we've done. I used to have those in a different room, and I only had books here. People wanted to see the awards because they want to say, hey, I'm following someone who's earned all of those, who's broken those records, who's done these things, who's traveled around the world, helped with polio and everything else. Like they want to they want to see you as a hero who's going to teach them how to be a hero, right? The hero's journey isn't just about making them into a hero. It's about showing them that you know how to get them where they want to go because you walked that exact path.
Hmm.
So, step one is coming up with a clear vision of what they want the world to see them as. And then you start making micro adjustments to become that yourself. What I will tell you is that when I had to make this transition myself, I started doing one new thing every couple of weeks, like Korean skincare. I hated it at first. It's a 7-step process, morning and night. You know how obnoxious that is to start doing? Like, it's just like, God, no, please. So you do have to look at like, okay, this is their ideal image of what they define as success. This is what I need to become. And you start adopting one of those things into your personal identity once per week. If you do too many of those things at the same time, you'll feel like an imposter and a fake.
Hmm.
So you're changing your neurobiology, and then you're going to turn yourself into what they want to be. Then you go to social media and you say, you put out your, you have to put out micro wins for them, right? So you put out, um, you'll put out different little snippets and sound bites that give them something that they feel like they learned something from you and they achieved something by the end of reading your post or watching your post. So your social media should have either quotes that inspire them, quotes that motivate them, quotes that pick them up to pursue the specific thing that you want them to pursue. But then it should also interweave PR that you've done and things that show that you're a thought leader. So if you go to my Instagram, you'll see it's a lot of motivational quotes. It's a lot of um then there's posts from like when I did a book signing or when I was on a panel in Palm Beach, and like there's little like domain authority indicators there. My old modeling portfolio is there. Like there's these things interwoven, like, look, I know how to get you where you want to go because I walked that exact path.
Hmm.
I used to hate putting my modeling portfolio out because I was like, I have a degree in biochemistry, and the only thing people care about is the photo shoot with Armani and the photo shoot with Burberry. Like, so I took those things offline, but those were the things that people loved sharing. Like, oh, I met an international model. Oh, what does she do now? Now she's a best-selling author. So you have to, it's weird, and you have to let go of control, but you have to realize that you're a static character in someone else's story. And when they tell you to their friends in their story, their correlation to you has to make them feel like they elevate their status with their friends.
Mm, okay.
Yeah, and it's not comfortable. It's not comfortable. Being okay with a bunch of people walking around saying, "Oh, I know a third generation model," was not comfortable for me because I literally am Mensa with a degree in biochemistry. Like I want to be known for my neurological performances, not for like posing nice for a photo. But like it's you have to let yourself become a part of their story, right?
Yes, that is a very interesting way to look at it and quite eye-opening. Do you think that that's the right tack for probably most authors and like entrepreneurs who have books to grow their business?
Your goal is for people to be able to say, I am where I am, a successful person to get on a show and say, I am where I am today because I read this book and it changed my life.
Mm,
That's your goal. So a lot of people come in to different PR moves like this because they want to be seen for who they are. What they don't realize is you ultimately win that game when you become the static character in everyone else's life. Right? Like how many people say, "Oh, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad."
mm.
And that guy is perfectly okay with wearing the same exact, not very colorful suit to every single PR opportunity. And he's okay with being the static character in everyone's life because now he's the static character in everyone's story. Right? Like, how many thousands of people cite his book?
You're speaking my language now with the stories. It's It's kind of how I think about aging as well, that when you're like a teenager and in your 20s, you're the main character, you're going on your journey, and then one day you realize that there's a new set of heroes that and you're suddenly like the NPC at the inn and you're like, "Whoa, wait a minute. I wasn't ready for that. I'm not done yet." But you do. You become the mentor character before you even realize it's happening.
I think, yeah, but I also think that the greatest freedom comes from being the mentor character. Because when you're the mentor character, you know exactly which role you have to step into. You know how to, you become better and better at that role. So you become the Brad Pitt or George Clooney of people's lives. And they're like, oh my God, I got to meet this person. They helped me figure this out. They're so cool. Check out their book. Like that's your goal, is to become the person who, for you personally, oh my God, I wrote a book. I didn't get any sales from the book. I made a whole like $200 off of selling this book and I got no clients. What do I do next? And you're like, this is what you do next. You take it from here to here,
Mm,
right?
yes. So let's go back to your book and the story of how, I mean, we're not talking bestseller like we said earlier with like, oh, on Amazon ebooks, I got some super obscure character that nobody ever looks in for an hour. Like
Yeah.
the actual bestseller here. How did that happen?
Oh my God. That's so much work. Okay. So, for starters, I published the book. It came out. All these people said they were going to promote it day one. And so the book came out, it's published, and the I have a WhatsApp with all of the people that wrote for the book. And I said, "Hey
How
guys,
many, what number are we talking here?
I think there's 21. There's 21 authors including myself. 20 or 21. Um, so I published in there and I said, "Hey guys," and some of them are like these huge international leaders. And I was like, them just writing one post, like the book I wrote for came out today, is going to spike sales. None of them wanted to do it. It was crickets.
Do you know
So
why they didn't want to do it? Do you
they
have,
wanted to see how the market reacted first.
they didn't want to be associated with it unless it was successful first.
People want to co-sign a winner. And
Mm.
that's why, like, when you're going through hell, you don't tell people until you came out a winner, because people want to co-sign a winner. They want to follow a winner. They believe in a winner, right? So the book came out, and after about an hour, I realized everyone is waiting to see what the market reaction is. So I quickly jumped into my email list and I emailed everyone and I said, hey, for the next 72 hours, the book is going to be 28% off. Not 30, 28 sounds like a bigger number
Mm.
because we're comparative beings.
Yeah, it's oddly specific.
27, 28, 29% off. Sounds bigger than 30. Yeah, it's pricing strategy. So I
Mm.
said for the next 72 hours, it's 28% off. That got a bunch of people, my email list, when and they started buying the book. And then one of the authors said, I just went to check out our book's page and we're the top number one new release for this category. That was the first indicator that everyone needed. As soon as people saw, oh, it's a winner, they wanted to quickly make sure everyone knew that they were with that winner. They were associated with that winner. Yeah, so it's painful realizing that, like, when you think you'll be your most authentic self, people will co-sign you and love you. It's painful to realize that they won't co-sign anything you do until you're a winner. But then you realize, okay, I need to always position myself and phrase myself as the winner that they should follow. And that's kind of like a painful experience to go through. It is, but you have to. It's just it's life. It's life. And I have a very small group of friends who like me, regardless of what I achieve, what I do. The banana bread friends. Um, but most people will like you because you're a winner. They like you winning, and as soon as you lose, they walk away. So you have the book. We got to top number one new release. People got excited when they saw that. So then they all started saying, oh, I wrote for this book. It's top number one new release. So I had to get that first milestone on my own, the first success indicator on my own. Once I got that success indicator, Then all these other people were super excited. So then they started promoting the book. Then it got top number one new release in 5 categories. Only it was like about a week after it launched. And then it got top number one new release in 8 categories, like categories I didn't even like try to rank for. It started ranking in all these different categories. And I was like, oh wow, like this is amazing. So then someone got so excited by our success that he put this tracker online. So every time we hit like the top 10, um the top 10 of a new category, he would get like a notification and then shared in the group, and then everyone got more excited. So then all of like the not all of the but like quite a few of the very powerful people in the group then started sharing it. So then we got high so then we got higher and higher. So like success breeds success.
Mhm.
Like I had to get that first milestone on my own, and then everyone came in to help it get higher and higher. And then from there, some of the people that I featured in the book got me speaking engagements, and they told me that I had to go to these different PR opportunities. So I got invited to all these like secret society dinners because they love intellectuals there. Like they like to feel smart. And
Mm.
if you come in as a bestseller and you're the static character who smiles and says, yes, I'm this best-selling author, and you're the static character at their dinner for an evening, then they get to walk home and say, yes, I got to meet a best-selling author tonight. I'm a genius. Like the story is always about them feeling better about themselves and them having status symbols. And you're nothing more than a proper status symbol in most people's lives.
Mm.
And yeah, it's uncomfortable when you first realize that. But after a while, when you realize that's your competitive advantage, that they see you as nothing more than a prop that makes them feel better about themselves, you kind of also become free.
That is fascinating. I have definitely never thought of that. I'm
Yeah,
just like, I want to help people. And yeah, that whole like what motivates people, and um I haven't paid much attention to that part of it, but I see what you're saying. And I definitely can think of some examples of people who I can tell that they want me to see them in a certain light, and that they want to be seen as intelligent, and the things that they do to make that happen. So that is, I'm gonna have to give some thought to that.
I've literally been invited to events where I get to promote the book because one of the event coordinators wants me to smile for a photo next to them that they put on social media. And I talked to them for a grand total of 30 seconds.
Yeah.
But it's a PR opportunity for the book. And I understand that I'm there to be a prop, a static character, smile with the book, make them look well connected and super smart, and then leave. And
Yeah.
it's there's this it takes time to get used to being that persona for people. So give yourself grace and patience as you learn to be that for people.
And I like the idea that you said of making the changes slowly, intentionally, just leveling yourself up one little change at a time so that you're really growing naturally into it. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. Yeah, you have to. I remember the first time I someone was like, "You, Adi, you have to wear red lipstick when you go on camera because you are so pale, you look sick if you don't." And I was like really hurt by that. And then I looked, they like showed me like 2 interviews right next to each other, and I thought the red lipstick was like way too much. And then I saw the other one and I was like, oh my God, you're right. I'm so pale, I look sick. Like, and people don't want to be following someone that they think is going to die soon. so, so like you have to adopt and integrate into your public image different things that make people feel like they can trust and depend on you. And regardless of the crazy crap that goes on around the world, and regardless of the crazy crap that goes on in their personal lives, they know that they can tune into your podcast and you're going to help them figure something out of value, right?
Yes.
Like you with the book funnels, they need to trust that the next episode you give them, they're going to figure out another hidden gem to get more out of their book funnel.
Yeah.
When they come to my podcast, they need to feel like by the end of that episode, they understand how another investor views growing portfolio companies, or they need to feel like they understand a new investment opportunity that's out there. It's about them feeling like they've achieved something by the end.
Mm. Yes. The success breeding success reminds me of a funny story metaphor kind of thing. It's not funny at all. But I was I was in the hospital last month for just a couple weeks, but it's like that's a significant amount of time to be away from home, and you end up kind of making friends around you with the other people. I started this puzzle, this jigsaw puzzle, and it was just me, and I was enjoying it, and I'm sorting it out, and I'm putting the pieces together. But once I got probably 15% of the way in, other people started gathering around and started helping. And one person was like, "Oh, I used to do jigsaw puzzles with my mom all the time. This is what you have to dump it out and organize them in this way." And so he did that for me. And like it became this team project that was just so heartwarming. And I felt so proud of all of us. But yeah, it was like once I got it going, other people saw where they could fit themselves in.
Yeah, yeah. People like to get on a moving train. When I first invited people to write a story in the book, no one responded. And my best friend from business school, he he raised 130 million for Avishkar Capital, which is it's the sixth largest impact fund in India. So that's a really prestigious career achievement. He said, "I'll write a story in your book." He was the first one to co-sign the book.
Wow.
And after I said Mihir Bala, who raised 130 million for Avishkar Capital during COVID when no one else could raise a dollar, he's writing for the book. Then one of my friends from the business school rugby team was like, "I'll put a story in." So when I had the two of them writing for the book, and they were like, "Wait, two of Adi's closest friends are writing in this book, and both of them are ultra successful." Then I got more and more people saying, "Hey, I want to write in the book. I want to write in the book." So it takes what's going to happen on your journey to success is it takes people who believe in you and believe in your future co-signing what you're doing, and then other people who will see that social indicator, that social proof, and then they come
Okay.
in. Yeah.
So now that you have worked for really famous international companies and improved their sales and written a best-selling book, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, what are you up to now and next?
So I have the tour for the book. I'm doing all these speaking engagements for the book. I'm also right now working on the next book is called Echoes of Titans, and it's all of the pep talks that my mentors and friends gave me over the past 2 years as I was going through all the the weird processes with writing this book and having bullies and haters online and things like that. Like they would give me these pep talks behind closed doors. And I was like, those pep talks need to be immortalized in a book. So everyone that's the next book I'm working on is
Hey.
that one. And then after that, I actually just joined a real estate fund.
Mm.
So my family's been in this space since the early 1900s. And there were a few things I wanted to achieve in the marketing and tech and startup space before coming over to the real estate side of things. It's because it's a very different speed. But now I just joined a couple weeks ago now as a managing partner at Heritage Real Estate Fund.
Very
So we
nice.
buy office buildings
Okay.
and industrial and a few other sectors. But with marketing, you're looking at how to improve people's lives with a few different products. With real estate, you're looking at how to improve the lives of an entire city.
Mm.
Because if you take a building and you put the right seating and the right lighting in there, people will sit down there in the lobby and they'll chat. And when you have professionals chatting in the lobby, they become strategic partners. And when they become strategic partners, you have economies growing. And when you have economies growing, you see everyone, abundance flows. And that's just with buying one building and changing a few things.
I really like the way that you see these little details that other people would never think could impact something, and you tweak that detail and it makes an enormous impact. Like, how many people are going to buy a building and think about, well, if I make the lighting more pleasant in the lobby, it's going to lead to so much.
It's
And
going to lead to financial abundance for everyone that's in there, and then you can increase the quality of the building. You can make other changes to make the building more and more classy and elegant. And yeah,
And that quality keeps coming up in all of your stories that you see those details that other people don't think are going to impact what they want, and yet you know that they will.
yeah, yeah. And that ties back to my father and what he used to always say, presentation is everything.
Mm,
Presentation is everything. So if you walk into an office building and you have lighting that is nice for the eyes and you have a nice lobby, you immediately relax. Even if you're going in there to see your doctor, your lawyer, your accountant, you relax and you walk in there. You're going to have a completely different meeting.
yeah,
So they think, wow, my business has become so successful since I moved into this one office building. And it's because the owner of that building studied neurobiology and they understand how to, at a cellular level, get people to calm down.
that is very cool. That's a great takeaway as well.
Yeah.
So, this book that you are currently on tour promoting,
Yes.
what is the best reason why somebody should run out and buy this right now?
So we focus on marketing as a revenue driver. When you meet a lot of junior marketers, they think their job is to make something pretty online.
Mm,
They don't realize that their job is to be a profit center, that their job is to grow sales and revenue for the company. But sales and revenue are the lifeblood of a company. And more money more money is better for everyone. If it's earned honestly, you have the right people becoming wealthy, you have the right people making decisions. We have much healthier economies and communities when the right ethical people are wealthy. So that's something that I'm very passionate about is economic empowerment for ethical people. And that's what we do with the book is it's 90 projects that teach you how to grow revenue.
mm.
I'm hoping that before junior marketers are corrupted into doing bad things to make money and clickbait and all these scammy things, I'm hoping that we can save more of them while they're still like pure of heart. They'll read this book, they'll realize there are a bunch of amazing ways to grow revenue for a company, and they can become a profit center. You also see a lot of marketers right now that are scared for their jobs because they're like, oh, AI is taking over my job. And it's like, AI cannot take over your job if you're the one driving revenue growth. If all you do is churn out blog posts, yes, ChatGPT is doing that now. But you know what ChatGPT isn't doing and I still have to do for it? It'll put out the blog post idea, but I know that 6 things need to be adjusted on there in order for it to drive sales.
Mm,
And even if I tell ChatGPT to make the most persuasive sales copy ever, I still have to go in and tweak it because it can do what a junior copywriter can do. It will never be able to do what a revenue marketer does, right? Like how much of what you teach people with building book funnels, and they used to have to hire like a team of junior marketers to do it, but I'd say probably like 70% can now be done by ChatGPT. But that other 30% that takes it to the closing point where it's driving sales and revenue, ChatGPT can't do that.
mm.
It can't. You need a senior marketer.
You've convinced me. I need to buy this book. Yes. Using marketing to drive revenue in an ethical way, that is like, yes, that's exactly what I want. And
Yeah.
I will say that I think a lot of us who did not come from success and wealth, who maybe don't have it now, it's easy to think that wealthy people are always unethical, are always bad. And that's a narrative that we hear in children's literature, in movies, and everywhere. And I have personally known, I have one friend who inherited a large amount of money, and the way that she uses it to support and help people constantly really is, I always sort of hang my hat on that and say, like, you can help people with money. Having money is not going to automatically turn you into somebody who's suddenly going to be like not valuing other humans and whatever. Like those are the ones that make the news, but
Money is like alcohol. All it does is highlight you.
Mm.
So if you are a jerk and you drink alcohol, you become more of a jerk. If you are someone who loves people and you love giving everyone hugs and making them feel like they're having fun at a party and you have alcohol, you're going to be hugging more people at the party and laughing with more people. Money is the same way. If you're a good, generous person and you have money, you're going to become more of a good and generous person. If you are a jerk who tries to hurt people because you were hurt when you were 4 years old and you're never going to let anyone live past the pain you experienced on the preschool playground, you're still going to be a jerk whether or not you have money. The other thing you have to keep in mind is that there are a lot of stories out there that push this narrative that it is noble to be poor, and they were written by unethical, wealthy people who want you to not become financially savvy because most money made by unethical people is made by ripping off the poor. It is not made by ripping off the wealthy. So every time you read a book that nobilizes poverty, imagine it being written by the most unethical person on the planet who wants you to remain so sick and poor, and they're the one taking all your money.
Whoa, that is so true. My goodness.
Yeah, yeah. My husband's like, a lot of people send us books. A lot of people send us books. Um, and I'll flip through it. And some books I'll read with my children, and some of them I flip to the end. And if it nobilizes being poor, I throw it away. Like, no, I don't need my children to learn that
Yeah.
because without money, you're defenseless.
I have a children's book, and I should not go into these different tangents, but at least I can cut it out. But when I was a kid, I had this book called The Falling Stars. And I had a lot of children's books with this same sort of message, but this one really, really got to me. And it's about this little girl who, like, I don't know, her family disappears, her parents are gone. She walks out of her house and she comes upon somebody who doesn't have shoes. And so she takes off her shoes and she gives them to this person. And then she comes upon somebody who doesn't have a jacket. So she takes off her clothes and gives it to them. By the end of the book, she is completely naked. She has nothing, and the heavens open up and the stars come down and clothe her as like this reward for her great selflessness. And I feel as though that message and that story has really messed me up. You know what I mean?
Keep this. I think this is a really key segment that should be more popularized. Do you know what narcissistic personality disorder is?
I hear a lot of people talking about it recently. I don't know really exactly.
Summary. Think of a very selfish 4 or 5 year old. At that age, they just don't understand sharing and giving. So they will take everything you have until you are bled dry. They're the ones, every time I read a book like that, I'm like, it was written by someone with NPD. Because what they want is for everyone to believe that if they keep giving and giving and giving and giving, that eventually they'll be taken care of. And I can tell you from personal experience, I have literally bled myself dry giving to people who had NPD who were never going to reciprocate. Because I was raised with, if you have a cookie, you break it in half, you share it with your friend. And then when they have a cookie, they'll break it in half and share it with you. There are very few people who will break their cookie in half and give it to you. There are a lot of people who will ask for your entire cookie and
Hmm.
then walk away, and then they'll open a packet of cookies they had hiding and they'll eat them and they'll call you an idiot. Yeah, and you have to protect yourself from them. So anytime there's something out there that tells you to give away everything you have and then someone will take care of you, be very skeptical of who told you that story. For example, there was one woman and she was being bullied. She was being bullied. Someone was trying to do an international smear campaign against her. This was right after I had my international smear campaign against me, and my godfather and mentors had saved me. Um, and I said to her, I was like, you're going to write a story in my book, and those people who were trying to bully you, who thought they could bury you, are going to think twice before they ever come after you again. And she was like, why would you do that for me? And it was like, because you and I grew up in the same bubble. We're from very well-known families, and people try to punch and stab at us because they think it'll elevate their status. And you're not going to punch back. because it'll look like a cat fight. You're going to write a story in a book showing how brilliant you are, and let that send a message that you are class. You are a queen. And so she wrote in the book, it reached bestseller status. Do you know what she did for me? She put me on the panel at a very prestigious event, sitting next to people from American Cancer Society, answering questions in front of some of the wealthiest people in America. That's what happens when two givers meet each other. That's who you need to surround yourself with.
Do you
If you believe that the
how to know that you're in front of another giver? Like, how do you protect yourself from that?
when you give something to someone, what do they give back to you? You told me you're going to give me the footage. I told you I'm going to make sure your podcast is on the end screen of every short. As soon as you gave me something, I gave you something back.
Mm,
Do you know how many people, if someone's a giver, they will not be comfortable with accepting something from you without giving something back. It's very quick to recognize another giver. If you say, "Oh, and I'm going to do shorts and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do that," and they say, "Oh, thank you," they're insecure. And if they're insecure, they're so busy being insecure that they'll take you down and never help you.
mm, interesting. That's another one of those messages that I grew up with that,
Just keep giving and
you
giving and
give
giving.
and you don't expect anything in return. It's wrong to, you know, want a reward for your giving.
And, and that is why women in this country are usually so much worse off financially than men in this same exact country who are expected to receive everything and
Mm.
not give back. Do you know how many women I know personally who invested their entire life into building strategic partnerships for their husband, into driving business to their husband? They spent their days literally going to Pilates and tennis and networking lunches with the wives of other executives, getting their husband business. And then their husband decided that they were done with them and tossed them to the side, and the wife who spent her entire year building her husband's career as a co founder of his personal brand is thrown to the side and seen as ridiculous when she wants to share in the money that they had made together. Because women in this country are taught to give and give and give until they have nothing left and then be thrown to the side. It's disgusting. It's disgusting. It makes me very annoyed. And then they're told that they have a mental health problem if they stand up for themselves. I'm over it. I'm done with it.
I appreciate that. This is very, very powerful, and I feel like I got more than I asked for, which is amazing. I got like therapy here, so thank you for validating my distaste for that stupid children's book that messed with me for years and years and years. I appreciate that, and yes,
Yeah.
wonderful. So I should wrap things up because it has been quite a bit of time, but I'm really enjoying chatting with you. What else do you think that my audience should know that I haven't thought to ask you?
So your audience is people who have written a book and they're looking to drive more sales with their book afterwards.
They have a business, they're usually working by themselves, they're middle-aged, they have no background in marketing, but they were like, write a book, it'll grow your business. And now they're kind of like, I did that, now what?
Yeah. I would say that partnerships are everything. So if you look at almost everything I did, I I pulled great people in and I said, how can I make this a win for them? I didn't ask how I can make it a win for myself. I know it's going to be a win for me. It's going to be successful. How can I make it a win for them? So a lot of what you'll see is a lot of people they look at the pie plate and they say, I want the whole pie. And they have a tiny pie plate. But they could make the pie plate so much bigger if they're willing to take 3% of a gigantic pie. And you'll notice the ultra successful say, I'll take 3% of a gigantic pie over 100% of a tiny pie,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Yeah, I had somebody who wanted me to start the real estate fund with him, but he wanted 75% of the pie. And he was bringing in 20%, he was doing 20% of the work. So
Hmm.
obviously I walked away. And then I found someone else where it's a 50-50 partnership and he's taking 50% and I'm taking 50% and I'm bringing in all of these assets and he's bringing in all of those assets. And we could sit there and try to devalue what the other person is doing and say, I need more of the pie or you need less. But that's very short sighted. So it's success as a soccer team.
Hmm.
If you wrote a book and it's not getting the results you want, you have to look at the most successful people that you're connected to and say, hey, I wrote this book, I would love to feature this story from your career in the book, because books immortalize people. So when you phrase it to them that way, it's a clear win for them. Don't say to them, hey, can you write a story in my book so it's successful? Because you just told them what they're doing for you. Tell them what you're doing for them. If you're listening to this and you're writing a book either about real estate, mental health, financial empowerment, marketing, and you want me to write a story in that book, I'll write a story in the book. And then guess what happens when people search my name on Amazon? Your book comes up too. You can be writing forwards in everyone's book. And then when they search your name on Amazon, every book that you wrote a forward for comes up under your search results.
Hmm.
It's beneficial for both players because you want to be known as a marketer, a funnel master, and a creative writer, correct? Imagine if you wrote the forward for every book written in one of those three genres. Not only does their book get more exposure, but you also become the godmother. That's what you want to be known as. You want to be known as the godmother. Some people look at me like I'm a kid, and other people look at me like I'm a godmother.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be known. My goal is not to be looked at like a kid. I mean, I'm fine with it, sure. Some people are like, you're the same age as my granddaughter. I'm like, but I've achieved more than you. So like stop calling me your granddaughter. Like, so you want to be looked at as the godmother because she's the sage one. She's settled in who she is. She's know who she is. She's a strong character. She's successful and she co-signs future leaders. You positioned yourself like that with your podcast. Now you can help your followers by writing if they're in a specific genre. Commit to a genre, say what you want to be known for. Funnels, marketing, book funnels. If they write a book on that topic, you write the forward or you write a success story in there.
Hmm.
Your win is their win.
I love it. That is a wonderful, wonderful takeaway. And so, as we wrap this up, I want to thank you for spending this time with me, and I'm very honored to have you here. What would you like people to do next? Do you want them to go and check out your book next? Do you want them
Yeah.
to go to a particular website? Anything
So
like
if they type my name into Google, adisoozin.com, they'll get bite-sized marketing tricks that they can do once a week. Like this week, you should optimize your LinkedIn heading. Next week, you should optimize this. So they'll get bite sized things like that. But if they're serious about becoming a revenue marketer or building an entire marketing career, building a marketing department, then they should definitely check out my book, Tools of Marketing Titans. Here's,
Okay, we will put the links for both of those things into the description and show notes. And again, thank you so much for being on, and we will talk again soon.
sounds good. Thank you so much for having me.